Not doing countdown.
You were on mute.
I unmuted myself,
There
but it
we
didn't
go.
work. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. I just would love to have you comment where you are from. I see Erie, Pennsylvania, Salisbury, England, Merhaba, Turkey, Istanbul. Oh, fabulous. Maryland from Missouri. Morning, Melbourne, Florida. Rofield, North Carolina, Florida, Connecticut, California. Oh, Jeanette from Ontario. Oh, fantastic. We're from all over the place. And I know we have a few people that will be joining us from the UK as well. From Texas. Fantastic. I can't believe where everybody is from all over the world. It just absolutely amazes me that crafting brings us all together, and we all need to learn to make things for our friends and family and just have a lot of fun. Today we're doing a contour, and a lot of people think they know contour, but I have a few tips and tricks that I want to go through as we get going on this. And if I didn't introduce myself right, I will in a moment or two. Hey, Barbara Palmer. Christine, morning from Washington, the state. Yes, we're in Vancouver, so you're not too far from us. We have a very rainy morning. How is the weather for everyone today? Okay, I don't see anybody. Sunny. Oh, fantastic. This is what we like, is sunny. Chilcothe, Ohio. Fantastic. So I see people are still coming in. Sunny and breezy. Rainy, Christine. Yes, very rainy here too. And people are still coming in. All right, I'm just going to get going. California mountains, 45 degrees Celsius. Janine says it's nice and cool, finally. Yes, you don't need overheat at this time of year, but I don't know. So we just had a friend come back from Mexico, around Puerto Vallarta, and so it was very, very hot. So if you want to escape all of the wintry, cool weather, you have to head south. Usually people go to Palm Springs, somewhere around there, or to Florida. So Auburndale, Florida, 86 degrees, sunny weather. Okay, I'm jealous, Dee. All right, let's get into this now. We're using a contour today. And we all love to connect with each other. So I just like you to be able to go into our Facebook group. We have over 15,000 people in that group. Our YouTube channel, we're close to 11,000 subscribers here. And this is where you'll find the live replays all posted under the live tab. We do have a presence on Pinterest and, of course, Instagram, and our blog is betsmakes.com. And Tika has put up a Ko-fi shop for us as well. So Ko-fi.com, betsmakes, all places that you can connect with us. So take advantage of that while you can. So let's get started. I hope you're going to be able to stay for the full presentation because, as usual, we have something free for you at the end. There will be a Q&A at the end as well, in case you have some questions. I will stop from time to time to make sure everybody understands what I'm talking about. Okay, so time for you to upload Cricut Design Space and start a new project. In case you don't know us, I'm Dr. Bette, and I'm a partner with Tika. Tika is the CEO of our company, and I'm a former university professor. Tika is a artist, a professional artist, and crafter professional as well. We've developed between us lots of training programs. I've developed hundreds of them being a university professor. That's just part and parcel of what we do. We create those training programs and help people leverage what they already know. So our goal here is to take you from what you know now to a place where you've got some extra tools and skills that you're going to be able to use when you go ahead and add some contouring things into it. I just want to make sure you're in the right place because we have a lot of new people that show up each one of these webinars. I feel like you have enough knowledge to make most things. You still get into messes and you still think there's a few things that you need to know or would like to know in order to take your crafting to the next level. So if you don't have time to work on crafts and you don't bother to take courses, webinars work really well because you get little snippets and then you have the replays that you're able to tap into. So a quick overview of what's going on. October 23rd, we did Making Shapes with Shapes. That's now in replay on the YouTube channel. The same with the one we did October 30th. Using the combined menu, it is now in replay. And we're going to use some of those skills that we had in the previous ones as part of this one as well. Today, we're using contour. And then next Wednesday, we're going to have a lot of fun with foiling. We can use the foil tool on our Cricut, or we can use a heat source. I have a cheap little laminator that I use for a cheap source. And of course, a laser printer really helps, but a few heat tricks that you can use in foiling. So that's what's coming ahead. So today's agenda, file types and what works best when we're using contour. Sort of improving imaging or images, repairing those extra cuts using contour, and if contour doesn't work, a different way to repair those. And of course, making layers with a layered project. This is one of the projects you see here that we are going to make today just using contour. Now I'm going to use two files today, and this is an important part. I'm going to use two of them. If you want to craft along, you can go to the library right away. It's in the free resource library, or it's in the members resource library, asset number 485 and 486. One's called the Floral and the other one's called the Dragonfly. I want you to download those if you want to craft along, or you can wait till later and just take what you need out of this right now and then get the assets a little later. So those are the things we are going to be working on. So we're going to start, but I'm just going to talk a little bit about the files that work best when you're using contour. And basically it's just one file, and it's an SVG file that works best. It tends not to work with PNG files, but it could work with the offset that you use on them. So that is a little bit on the file types. And then we're going to go into, of course, improving images and making layers. So I'm going to head over to Design Space. But before I do that, I am just going to look and see any comments. Ohio, checking Wisconsin, Indiana, New Jersey. I just want to know how many of you use contour already. Just a simple yes will in the comments will work. Just waiting for a few of those to come in. Oh, hello from Quebec, South Carolina. Foiling for the holidays, yes. I do. Hi. Okay, Diane. Diane Green rarely uses it. Stephanie uses it. Jeanette uses it. Betsy, I use it all the time. Ruth does not use it. Mary does. Lorna does. Barbara does. All right, so it's about 10 to 20% of you don't use it at all. Some of you use it sparingly, and most of you use it frequently. Now, when you're using it frequently, what is the one thing that you use it for? I'm just curious. I've used it some. What is the one thing that you use contour for? So we still have a yes from Sheila and Sandra. Janine uses it now and then. Get rid of a hole for a tag. Yes, that is a really good part, to remove parts of an image, remove insides from all offsets, get rid of hole in a tag, some to get rid of something I don't want. Thicken letters. Oh no, that's a great idea. Fill in offsets. Okay, so I see most of you are using that to fill in the offsets and different parts and pieces that you're working with. So let me go over here back to Design Space, and I'm going to just start a new project. And we talked about filling in holes with things. So I'm just going to go to my uploads here. And I'm going to just pick on one of these. Let me just pick on the floral one because we're going to be using it as we go through. I'm going to add this to the canvas. Now I can come through here. I'm just going to show you a little bit when I'm using an offset here. So I'm going to use an offset, and you see all the little holes in the offset. I'm just going to apply it. I'm going to change that offset color. Let's make it a nice red. And I'm just going to move the original design out of the way. Now, offset quite often will leave holes in different things. So it's really easy. You hit your contour button and you hide all your contours and then click away, and then you have your offset without the holes. Now that's the big thing that most people are using their contour for, is to get rid of those extra little holes that it creates. Now, I don't need this right now, so I'm just going to delete it. But there are other things that we can use it for, and I'm going to make this a little bit smaller because I need some space to work on the screen. Now, offset is obviously one way you can use it. You can create two layers. You can have a back layer. You can set your offset to 0 and make a really nice two-layered object. So let's go back here. Let's click on our offset, and this time let's come up here and set it to 0. Just apply it, and I'm going to change it, of course, to that red color again. Now you won't be able to see it because it's right in directly behind this, but I'm going to move this out of the way. All right, so we have our offset right here. It's exactly as we see, and of course with contour, very easily hide all the contours, close it, and put it back over top, and you have a nice, let's see if I can get it to match without lining it up. There we go. So now I have a two-layered piece. So creating a layered image is really easy when we do it that way. Now I'm going to leave that backing because that is going to be our back layer for what we're going to do with contour. Now what we want to do here is create a couple more layers and add a couple of different colors. A couple of things I want to tell you when you're doing this. When you take a look at the original design, you need to have a framework all the way around. Doesn't matter what layer you're using. So I'm going to keep our top one over here. I'm going to make a copy. I'm going to click on Alt and bring it over top. Now when I do this, when I click on the contour, it kind of hides everything I'm going to be working with. So I'm going to move this over because I know contour is going to come up and hide a lot of the stuff I'm going to be working with. So let's just center these two items together. Now we're going to be working on this top layer. So if I click on contour right now, as you can see, you lose quite a bit of it because of the size of this. Unfortunately, we can't change this a lot. So we have that in black. So I'm just going to cancel this for now. We are going to have to see what we're doing. So if we can get as much as possible visible here, let me just grab those two together. Okay, Control Z. Let's grab those two together. I'm just going to slide them down here a bit so I can see a little more of it. Click away. I want this black layer on the top. So we've got red at the bottom. Let's make it a nice mauve color. Now I don't want the whole thing showing through. So what I want to do is then click on contour. And what I mentioned is we want to keep the outside edge. And the reason is that so it will fit with everything that is there. Now we have to decide, what do we want to show up as this purple color. So I'm just going to click, say, on a few of these. There we go. It didn't. Can't quite see underneath there. It should show up just like that, so I don't know why it's not staying. Now, on the opposite ones, let's just pick on a couple of these. Now, if you get a really complicated design, sometimes it doesn't show easily here, and the view is very small. I don't know why it won't do this one. See if I can find it in the list here. Bottom. So I've got 1, 2, 3. Oh, it looks like it's showing up here. Oh, it is now. Isn't that interesting? So maybe that's all we want for the purple. So I'm just going to click away. Now, if we bring this top one back over top, now we can see we have the purple pieces inside. Now, you're wondering about the outside edge, why we don't have the purple showing there. Well, we don't want the purple showing there because those are the places that we line everything up. And it's really important to line everything up. Okay, we have 2 layers now, and I'm keeping these together. So let me grab a copy of this one. Put it over top here. Let me just line it up this way. Align center. Now I'm going to change that black now to another color that we want. We can see what's showing through now, the red and the purple, but we want another layer. And it's sometimes hard to get your mind around. So do we want a deeper color, a darker color? Maybe we can go with a nice gold. And we are going to contour this one as well. Now you can see below, so if I click on this area, you can see what's happening in behind, what is showing. Now we had the opposite one. Okay, so let me also click on the one in the center. So that's hiding that one. We've got some purple showing through. We've got some yellow showing through. And you can decide if you want to add different colors in the petals. Maybe we'll go for the center piece as well. That looks amazing. So let's click away. Now you could probably make your screen a lot bigger. So now we're starting to see the different layers. Now you can add more layers and more colors. We've got purple, yellow, red, and then I can add this one over top. Okay, let me just grab all this together. So then you would end up with something like this. Now, I don't need to leave the black one there. I can decide if I want to add some different colors to show through as well. So we have 3 layers. You could actually add a 4th one if you want to, and just give yourself a really great little design. Now, I'm going to ask for some questions here because the big part here is, of course, making sure that you layer things over top so you can see what is happening. So we have our yellow layer here. It goes underneath, and then we have our purple layer, and then, of course, the red layer that we made before. Now we've got 4. You can get really complicated with these if you want to, but it's the visual part so you can see it as you're doing the contour when you click on the little items. Now this is a fairly simple one that we're doing, and of course this one is available for you as a download through the library. Let me just align this and center it so you get a nice design. A little bit different than I did when I was doing the practice. Dee says, I did a gingerbread cat and got rid of some of the lines so I could put a name on it. Yes. Okay, so let me just grab this together. Let's just group it, and I'm just going to call this flower. I'm just going to step back for a minute before we do one more of these. If you recall, when we did some things with exclude, we were playing around with some shapes. So I'm going to play around with a shape. Just make it nice and big so we can see it. Get a purple circle. Maybe I'll take this next shape here. You'll probably recall seeing this one that we did before. Okay, let me just shut this for a second so I can make this a little bigger. And let's just grab all of these, and we're going to align center. There we go. And I think on the last one, we had a heart on the top. I'm going to make our heart red. I'm going to get rid of the shapes here. Get our little heart in here. Just grab it all and align center. There we go. Now we had created a shape with a shape like this. Now we're going to be using exclude for this, and then we're going to use contour to make a different shape altogether. So when we use exclude, it is the very base back layer that is the starting point. So we have the base layer, which is purple, which will exclude things that overlap on the second layer, which is the black component. And it will turn anything that's left over the same as the base color. And then finally, the top layer, which is the heart, will be excluded from anything that is below it. But since it's working on the 3 layers, we're going to get a heart and a funny looking shape. So let's go to the combine menu and then just click on exclude. And this is what we end up with. Now, you may say, oh, I like the little curves. I like this. I like that. But perhaps we want to do something just a little bit different with this. So we can actually click on this. It's supposed to be able to go ahead. Let me see. Do exclude layers. Okay, from exclude, it's supposed to come up with contour. Now, it's not always working for me when I come with a shape. So let me just take a copy of it. And this sometimes works the best. If it doesn't work for you, grab a copy. Move the original out of the way and just grab a copy here. And for some reason today, the contour is not working. Yesterday, it worked just fine that I could exclude these extra little pieces here. So it's an interesting thing as you're working with design spaces, they do updates. Things are going to change just a little bit because you could actually take this particular shape, and I wonder if the copy, if I can weld this together, but I can merge layers. And now, of course, contour is going to show up. So it's a good thing to know that if you can't get it and you've got layers of things together, you come over to the combine menu and merge the layers. So we have this one, merge the layers. So just show you that one more time. We're over here, contour is not showing up. I can combine, merge the layers, and now I can use contour. So in the contour, I can get rid of those 2 extra little pieces on the side. Sure I can. All right, so if I go ahead and I get rid of this, and I get rid of this, no, I want to keep this. It's going to keep the middle. Okay, so I want to get rid of this. And I want to keep this and keep that. Okay. Hide all contours. Okay. So now I just want to go ahead. I want to eliminate this piece. And it's not allowing me to do what I wanted to do, of course. But I did manage to get rid of the heart with it. But you should be able to get rid of these extra pieces with the contour, and it is not allowing us to do that today, and I'm not too sure why. I can get rid of that part. I can add these 2 pieces, and that's it. So I'm sorry this didn't work for me, but it worked yesterday, but I can come up with my own little shape this way as well. Now, it's an interesting part about contour because in theory, this little piece on the edge is supposed to disappear. And it could be the way we did the shape. I hope I'm not confusing you too much. So as you go through the colors, you have to start out with the original black design and contour and color that. That is exactly the way you do it. You can, Stephanie, you don't always have to do it that way. You can, of course, leave that layer on and make a copy of the layer so it's on top and then add more things that way. I find it a little confusing when I do it that way. So if I bring the original copy over top, I can see through what I want, and then I can pick those colors as to exactly what I want. So let's go ahead and click on upload again. We're going to grab our Dragonfly this time. So with our Dragonfly, we have the same thing that we want to do. We want to be able to add the different layers. And of course, I want to make a copy of it. So I have the original over here that I'm working with and the back one here. So first one, contour. I'm going to hide all contours. We have the back. So I'm just going to make my back a light orange. And I'm going to bring a copy in. Now I'm going to have to arrange that and bring it to the front. Let's line these both up. And then I'm just going to move them down here because I want to be able to see what's happening when I hit the contour button on the top layer. All right. Make sure I've got the top layer, basic cut. Yes, I do. Okay, let's hit contour. Now the same thing here. You can pick the colors that you want to have yellow. And of course, you need an outside edge always. And that just keeps things together. And I know it's showing up black in behind because the yellow would be over top. So you know you've got the yellow that you want. So let's turn that back off. Make sure that those are yellow. Now let's take a look at what we can turn off here. So if I grab one of these, you can see the black through on the other side. 3. Got 3 there. I've got missed 1. Sometimes it's a little hard to see here. As you can see, we are making a nice little design, and we are just picking on opposite colors. Now you can be more detailed than I am with these colors. Grab this one. Now the ones that are in behind, you just have to hope that they are going to show up, but you can fix those later. So we have a lot of the yellow pieces that we want here. So maybe I can just grab these in the middle as well. And that one, okay. And then I'm just going to hit the X. Now we can see through on that other layer. So we have the yellow, and then we have the black layer. So now we've got 2 layers in place here. So let me just grab this one aside. So this is all in black. We have the yellow showing through. Now we don't necessarily need to leave this as a black layer. We can make it another color. So we can see some of the colors that are going to come through. All right, let's just grab another copy. And that one's coming on top. That's great. Let's not make it black. Let's make it blue. Actually, let's make it a brighter color. Let's make it orange. I have a bright one of these guys. All right, let's align center. Now we have to decide, of course. See if I can grab it. Okay. There we go. Make sure we're on the top layer here. No, we're here. Top layer, yes. Contour. All right. Let us just grab some colors here. Now, I don't like that per se, but maybe I want to make these ones in between a different color. So let's just work on this one in the middle. So So we've got some blue colors in here. Now this can get fairly detailed fairly quickly. Let's work on some pieces at the top here as to what we're going to have. Maybe I will add these as well. So I'm getting different colors. Now I've got some of the red showing through. I don't have a lot of the red in here. And then we can just bring our other one back on top. And then of course, once again, you want to align it and center it. Now I only see 3 of the colors. So some of the stuff that I made on top here obviously is not going to work that well. So I can go back and re-contour different things that I want. And just pick this first layer. I meant to pick the second layer. So I'm thinking I want to take this down here and this down here and leave the top 2 the way they are. So I'm getting a different effect. So you can keep adding layers and layers and layers. We only have 4 simple layers here, and the color effects will depend on what you want to do. This dragonfly is a little harder to work with because you can't see all the little parts and pieces all the time, especially in the tail, because I've got to make it so much smaller. Maybe make it big, then we can see some of these items in the contour. All right, let's go back here to this layer, second layer. And let's just see what we can do with this second layer. We want the yellow to show through, but perhaps we want some red here now to show through. And you can see it happening down here. And let's just leave it at that so I have some extra color. So you can start picking on the different layers on each side as you go through. So it's the 4 layers, but you want to see what it's going to look like at the end. And that's probably the hardest part. So let me just grab that all together here. No, I don't want that. I want this. I don't want the flower part. I'm just going to group it, and that's just so I can see it. Now, I didn't do a great job on that one. This one doesn't look too bad. Yes, they're up and under the live tab after the webinar is finished. Okay, any questions so far? So someone had asked before, why would you want to create those layers? Well, if you want to create your own mandala from a design you already have, you use the contour and set up the layers for the different parts and pieces that you want. And then you can see through. Now, the best part about this is doing it this way with contour is being able to see the bottom layer, the top layer, the next layer, and you will see what your end result is. Now, if we take, say, the flower, for example, I'm just going to move this guy out of the way. Let's bring the flower back here. I'm going to ungroup this. So if I take this top layer, I can just hide it, and then I can see what my next layers are going to show through. So we know that the different colors are here. So say this second layer, and I decide this is from the top, was the yellow. So we have the purple. So this is exactly what you're going to see, the red in the back and the purple here. Now, what I suggest you do in the layers panel is, I'm just going to go like this, get the top here, mandala floral. I'm just going to call this purple. And then I can tell what color my layer is going to be. So I'm just going to grab this and I'm going to double click here, and I'm going to make this yellow. And of course, our top layer is black right now, but you could change that color. So I'm just going to call it black. Now it's a lot easier to start working with your layers because you can see what layer and in what order and the color it is. So that's another important issue. If I have to practice on this later, just going to watch for now. How large this piece have to be to cut so the thin part is large enough not to fall apart when cutting? What's the tiniest the maker? It can cut pretty, I've cut 1/8 of an inch, if that helps. So I like to make sure that my thin parts are at least 1/8, because when you go to weed it, it's next to impossible to pull it off the mat or off the backing paper. So you have to be very careful. If you use intricate cuts, it probably can go smaller, but on the safe side, 1/8 of an inch is probably where I would go. Now you can create your own shapes, of course, with 1/8 of an inch. And, you know, we can contour different things here as well. So if I grab my circle again, and I decided that I wanted to make something that I can, of course, create another one. So I'm just going to make a duplicate of this. Take the top one. Let's see, top one is 538. So let's make the top one size 5.25. And then let's make the back one 5.625. That gives us that 1/8 of an inch. 0.625 and 5.5. You know, that's pretty thick. You wouldn't have any problem with that. So the 5.25, the back one, 5.25. We could probably 5.25 should have been 375. 5.375. Sorry. So when I grab those two together and I align them and center them and then just slice them out, that is probably the narrowest you would want to go with that. So let me just grab these out of the way. I just want one of the circles here. I wouldn't go much thinner than that when I'm doing anything. So this is 1/8 of an inch, and I just did that this way. So let me unlock this puppy here. See if I can do something different. I'm determined to make that other thing work for me. So I'm going to grab those two together, combine, exclude. So I should just get a line now. There. Now I should be able to cut off my little pieces here. So let me just grab this together. Let's combine, merge layers, contour. Now I should be able to get rid of my extra little pieces on the sides. And I want to keep the rest. I can't see it. That's the problem. And this one should not appear. Okay. I am determined to make this work. Okay, I'm going to end up with a piece that looks like this, but that's okay. It's just the fact that if you're cutting, now you'll notice this is going to cut as well inside here, and that's 1/8 of an inch. And I would not go any more than that. All right, let me just get rid of that. Grab our flower. Oh, I got part of it. Just grab this out of the way. Grab this up here. Let's grab them all together. Align and center. And I'm not going to group them. I'm just going to bring them over here. And then, of course, what you want to do with this one. Now, this takes a lot of practice. I really have to tell you, it does take a lot of practice. I do use it quite often when I'm making layers for different things. But what I really want to emphasize is if you're going to do this to make things, especially on the floral part, I would make sure the outlines are stacked so every single layer has an outline component. That way it is easy to line things up. And that's the hardest part for me, especially using a vinyl, is lining things up. If it's cut out of paper, it's not as difficult, but it is easier to line things up as you go. All right, we have some questions. Is there any way to make, is there any, sorry, I lost the question. Is there a way to make the small bits on the tail solid? Down here, you want the whole tail solid? Yes, you can. You just select all of them and then it'll pick them all from that. Let me just take this apart. Oh, let's ungroup this. All right, let me grab one part of this guy. Click away. See if I can get the black one. So you want to have the tail solid. On the way. Of course I'm going to get more. Okay, let's get this out of the way. Just move stuff out of the way for now so we can get to what we want to work on. All right, we want to make just the tail solid. So let's go to contour. And let's see, we've got all contours here. So let's just make this solid. So I hide them all. And then what I can do is I can select all of these. Okay. Let me just take that off and off. All right, it's a little hard because I can hardly see them on my screen. It's just all the little parts. Okay, so just one at a time. There are lots of little parts here. Why did it pick on another thing that I didn't touch? So okay, let's just take those first ones and grab it. And you'll see that I got rid of the rest of it. Now you've got all these other little pieces. Now, if you wanted to just select these, and I'll pretend this is not part of it, you can come up here to offset. And then I can offset down to 0 if I want, or just a little bigger and apply it. It's going to be black because it's at 0. Now I should be able to take all of this and then fill in the holes with it with the contour, because this is a separate little piece. So I can hide all my contours here and then show them all. It's just a matter of getting rid of the extra pieces. So I'm sorry, I'm taking a long time to answer this question. You are going to have all of these little cuts in behind. So perhaps you want to make a shape all by itself like this and make it solid and put it in behind. And that's about the only thing you can do with it. There are tons of little bits and parts for a lot of it. But with the other part of it, let me just get rid of this. I got to bring back. If you go ahead and contour and hide all contours, you'll notice how it's coming in all black here. Well, then you can go ahead and bring in and leave these parts out, and you'll have a simply solid piece in behind, or use the backing as the solid piece and then bring your other pieces on top as you need. And don't color them in, but just leave the back solid. So that is one way you can do it. It is a lot of work playing around with it until you get exactly what you want. So any other questions? Is there to show how it works? Firefly. 8 inches, very much larger than the Firefly. It will cut out smaller. Don't get me wrong. It will cut out smaller. It's just that when I'm using paper, I find that it doesn't cut as thin as I would like it to, but it can cut very thin and very intricate cuts. So you would have to use that intricate cut setting to get it smaller, but I tend to go with 1/8 of an inch. 1/16 would work as well. And it just depends on your machine. With mine, I use the same blade knife I've had for 4 years. I just keep it clean and it works extremely well. It depends on the stick of your mat as well, that it will cut it out sharply and cleanly. So don't quote me that 1/8 of an inch is all it will do. It will do more. It just depends on how your machine behaves, and they all behave differently. So it's the stick of the mat, it's the sharpness of the blade, it's the material you are using. So that's an important part as well. Any other questions? I know it looks a bit confusing, but you have to play with it. I just did the Dragonfly one just to show you that there's other ways to do it. I find the simplest ones, of course, are the florals to play with, and that's a good playing start. Go in there and play with this one until you get a nice color design that you really like, and then of course you can cut out the different layers, and matching up is a lot easier. The biggest problem you will run into, of course, this one is a solid piece. You'll notice that this inner piece here for this mandala is not attached to anything, so you have to place them at the same time. So that's where transfer paper comes in handy. So you'd have those pieces to transfer. When you take a look at your next layer, which is the yellow one, you'll notice there's a lot of floating pieces here. Same thing, your transfer paper. But the whole idea behind the transfer paper is in place. And of course, if you use parchment paper underneath it, you can match them up a little easier. So it's not just doing the design, but it's also making sure you can match everything up in one piece. Don't weed it out and then take it off one piece at a time, because that's not going to work either, because you do have to match it up once you've created it. Let's just grab these pieces back here. So any other questions? We've got a few minutes left. Is everybody totally confused or totally happy with things that you can play with? Thank you for explaining things so thoroughly. You're welcome, Stephanie. Now, I just want to make sure that when you're playing with this, that you're using the full design. Just want to do one more. Let's get rid of these guys out of the way. You start out with your basic design, and that's usually the big question. Okay, I want to make this contour. I'll build one on top of the other. I do not recommend doing it that way. I always recommend making a copy, starting with the back one, doing your contour, and hide all your contours. Click the X so that you have a backing to work with. So if you make this red, you only have 2 layers. Let's arrange this one, bring it to the front. Just 2 layers makes it really easy. You have a backing and something that it shows through. The toughest part is, of course, choosing what you want to do if you want another layer. And of course, that's Alt and bring another copy over, match it up. Now, when you're working on the other layer, this is the top one, but let's just change the color here. Let's make it that light purple. Now you can see that this would fit over, but if you put this over top, you're not going to see any of the purple, because that's exactly what it is. What you're trying to do is carve out on this next layer the color that you want, and then you put another layer on top and carve out the next piece that you want to get rid of, so that you have another one. And you can go on and on. You can have 6, 7, 8 layers. It doesn't really matter. Start by playing with 3 or 4, and that'll make it a lot easier. And I'm sorry my other little piece did not work, because it was working for me yesterday. And I think I put it under my stuff. So let me see if I can find that. There it is. Just customize it. And I'm just going to replace what we worked on. So these are ones that I worked on yesterday, just to show you some of the colors that you can come through. And is this grouped? No, it is not. I made green on the top. So let me just grab that together. Let's group it. And let's make sure our dragonfly is grouped. Didn't get all of the, okay, let's go across that way. Let's group it. And I can just move things around. So I made the top layer green, and I used 3 layers on this particular one, but I had also played around with some of the other stuff as well. So it's a lot of fun to play with. So what you have to do is just understand you need a full contour, hide all layers on the back, and then you need your original on the top. And then what you put in between is where you're going to start playing with contour more regularly. So the other things with contour, of course, are hiding the holes of things from your offset, and that's an excellent way to use it. And then you can, when you make your own shape, start taking things apart. For some reason today it would not work for me, but it worked for me yesterday. So it's a little bit of an update. Contour is very helpful and a great feature. I think I would need to print the black one and color it by hand so I can keep up with what is what color when contouring. Yeah, that to me, when you get into the 2 middle layers, I understand totally the back one and the front one, that works. You work with 1 layer at a time and you start playing around, because you can re-contour the same layer. So if you don't like what you see, pick it again, hit contour again, and change some things up. But start with a nice, simple design. I think that is the big thing. Bette. Okay. Let me go back over to our PowerPoint now, so that I don't see any other questions. All right, I just want to make sure that you had grabbed, of course, the 2 assets that we worked with. But let's take a look and what we learned today, the file types that work best. Obviously, the SVG is the best one to work with. PNG, other than doing an offset and repairing the holes, it's not really going to work too much for you. And then shapes you create, you should be able to contour. It just wouldn't work for me today, unfortunately. And then, of course, making your layers is the big thing. You want your frame out the front, you want one at the back that is hidden, all contours, and then start making copies over for your layers to make it a lot easier. Yes, please watch the replay. So we did contour today. Next week, we are going to play with foiling. So you can have several different kinds of foils. We've got the Cricut foil that comes in little packages that you tape on, and you can create some beautiful foil designs with that. And then we have the heat version as well. There are different kinds of foils that you can be using, and they make incredible little cards. And do I have one here? I do. Let's see if I can pull it off. So you can do things with a heat design like this. And that's not done on the Cricut. This is done with foil and a simple laminator or heat tool. So it's a lot of fun and things that we can look forward. Yeah, today I don't feel like I'm sharp enough because of that stupid thing that wouldn't work for me. So I get frustrated with it as well. So just a reminder, those that are on the digital kits, have their digital kits, that the next one is coming out in a week's time.
No, November 26th.
November 26th will be our December one. And of course, on that day is the Advent calendar. On the 26th and the 28th, there are 2 little projects we want you to do. And then the December 1st to 24th, you have a daily video on something to do for your Advent. That's going to be a lot of fun. So if you haven't got your digital kits, just grab them here, digital-kits. It's $19 a year. That's once a year. So it's under $2 a kit. It comes with all kinds of things, 14 digital papers, a couple of sheets of ephemera, digital stamps, digital dies. And if you don't know how to use all those, in our shop, of course, we have our digital kit guide, so you can see how to use digital paper. So we use them in a lot of our projects. So there's a lot of fun with those. So if you haven't grabbed it yet, or you're just brand new with us, just know that these are a lot of fun to play with. Now, I promised something for you, And we have our mandalas, SVG and PNG files today for you. Includes the 2 that I had you download already, but we've given you 6 more. So I will show you what those look like so that we can come back here, and let me go to my uploads. Click on it, uploads. So we have some other flower ones for you to play with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a butterfly one I think you'll have a lot of fun with. We have another floral and a more complicated one, and we have a bird. These are all things that you can use to practice. So go and grab those. Go back to our PowerPoint. So that's what those look like. So it's betsmakes.com mandalas. So any other questions? I had my Cricut foil kit like forever. Finally going to use it. I recently bought a laminator and a thermal web foil and toner sheets. That is it. The thermal web foil and toner sheets. Trying to get into card making. Yes, we're going to play a lot with that next week, Alice, because I'm going to bring out my laminator here, all my different kinds of foil, the foil tools. And we'll be a little more hands-on on learning how to use those, because the foil kit has 3 different levels of how thick that foiling is going to be, how you tape it on your mat, or using a laminator and a laser printer is a little cheat, but it works extremely well for what you want. And of course, there's a little tips and tricks with that. If you want to do it on black, like I did with this one, then the Cricut doesn't like to cut out cards on black, but you can do a little cheating in order to make this work for you. So it's a lot of fun with card making. And of course it adds, foiling can be added to almost anything. So just think about it. You can add foiling to a t-shirt or anything else. It just doesn't stay on as long, but there are different ways to do it as well. The original link for the original downloads. Okay, any other questions? No other questions? Let's check our time. Oh, we're almost right on time, which is absolutely fabulous. So I want you to go out and practice using contour and trying to come up with some designs, and please share them with us in the Facebook group, because we'd love to see exactly what you have in place. And that is the best part of this, is the communication back and forth. And if you are a paid member, of course, we have our community, so you can give me some comments in there as well. Inside the community, of course, Tika and I are there answering questions all the time. We post all of our events in there. And part of your community, of course, is the ability to get direct access to both Tika and myself, because we are pretty busy coming up with the next event. So I am so happy to have had all of you here, and I can hardly wait for the foiling one next week. So we will see you then. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.